You got things to say, Pippin? So, the Acolyte is the apprentice to the apprentice, or like the potential Sith apprentice.
The side piece.
Right. Okay. The Grand Inquisitor is like, Palpatine told me he's gonna leave Vader any day now. They're gonna get divorced.
Oh, no. He goes to his book club, and they're like, oh, girl, honey.
I'm gonna put Yord on the chopping block.
No.
What's up, everyone, and welcome to the Star Wars Explained Weekly Q&A. I'm Alex.
I'm Molly.
And we're going to talk about the Acolyte, some Star Wars Outlaws. But first, what did we get up to this weekend?
We didn't do a whole lot.
Mostly just chilling.
Especially when a new show like this is on and we're covering a lot of it and we're, really busy throughout the week. Sometimes we just sit around on the weekends, and that's okay.
I mean, we went out. We went out, saw a bunch of friends, caught up with friends that we haven't seen in a while. That was a lot of fun. But yeah, mostly just vibing over the weekend.
We got another perfect game in Hanabi.
That's true. Did we? That's true. It's a big deal. We've been playing this board game for like 5 years now. And
it's a card game more than a board game.
It's a card game. It's co-op. It's difficult to fully beat, and we've done it twice now. So that was pretty big.
When it happened, we were at like a restaurant / brewery downtown, and when it happened, I expected everyone around us to clap.
But on Tuesday, I wanted to talk about going to see Inside Out 2. That was fun.
Yeah.
And your fault. You got us into that.
Yeah, that was a fun little surprise to get invited to another little like fan screening event, but it was at a theater that we don't normally go to. It's kind of like further into the city, but it was kind of nice. Like we've been to that theater before on like opening nights, and it's just packed, but this being like a Tuesday, it was very chill. I liked the movie a lot.
I liked it a lot too. I remember liking Inside Out. We've only seen it once in theaters. I remember Bing Bong making me cry, but we should have rewatched the first movie just to prep for this one. But even without that, it was a lot better than I thought it was going to be.
I knew they were introducing new emotions to the group, which I thought was a great idea, and I think they executed it perfectly. I saw some like press reviews that weren't so great, but I was just kind of like, I went into it not expecting a whole lot, and it was really cute.
I didn't look at any reviews at all, and it's nice to just be able to go see a movie or something and just see it and be like, I liked that. Well, let's go home.
And then just leave, and then just like never bring it up again unless you really want to.
Yeah, it was just for me, and now we'll talk about it here. But yeah, I do think that's important to go out and, just watch something just for the fun of it and not to dissect it or discuss it. But that's what we're about to do for the rest of this Q&A. But real quick, before we do that, I wanted to give a shout out to Ben Phelps, who joined our Patreon at the Jedi Council level this past week, which is insanely generous. It's a lot of support, so thank you so much, Ben. Now, let's dive into the Acolyte. Starting off, Will asks, could Mae and Osha be a dyad in the Force?
Ah, yes, a dyad. I know it not so well.
I kind of feel like that too. The dyad is something that was introduced, it felt like, it was in the middle of The Rise of Skywalker, but like it just kind of came out of nowhere for me. And we're like, oh, we're just going to talk about a brand new Force concept that feels very big and mythical.
Well, the way they introduced it, they kind of just like spat it out like we were all supposed to already know what it was, and we're like,
Ray,
what?
We're a dyad in the Force, and I'm like, what's that? So that's kind of how I feel about the dyad in general, is like, I'm not crazy about it, but I also feel like I don't know much about it, and I would not mind if the Acolyte wound up being a place where we explored it further. Because, like, Metachlorians was something that a lot of people didn't really care for when that was introduced in The Phantom Menace. And now, when a show keeps saying M count, everyone's like, say Metachlorians! Like, just say it, you cowards!
Well, just because I did it earlier today, I just Googled Force Dyad to see what Wikipedia said about it. Pretty basic. It's when two Force-sensitive beings have a unique Force bond that is unbreakable that made them one in the Force. It's as strong as life itself, with the individuals forming a dyad sharing a connection that spanned across time and space.
I mean, it sounds like it could be. Always one, but born as two. Sounds like two people connected through the Force, an unbreakable bond.
Strong as life itself, that, kind of ties in with their creation. Their life began by whatever Mother Anastasia did.
That is the thing, is right now I don't think we know enough to competently say that, yes, they're a dyad. I'm like, they sure could be. Nothing in that negates it for me.
Yeah. And it is interesting now that I think about it, like their Force vision connection, similar to Kylo Ren and Rey, it didn't start happening until later in life, until things started ramping up, until Mae started killing Jedi. So that is interesting that they have this strong bond and connection, but it doesn't present itself until a specific moment.
There's also the fact that Osha in the first episode kept waking up in a panic, and it was like right after Mae killed a Jedi. So it could be that maybe she was dreaming about that. Like maybe they have dreamt about one another all these 16 years, not understanding that meant that they were alive or something. So yeah, I'll be interested to see it. My first reaction when I hear the dyad is like kind of, I don't know. I don't super care about it. But I think that's because I don't really understand it. And this would be a chance to explore it more, where I'd be like, oh, okay, yeah, I'm kind of into that.
Yeah, we really just have to wait and see if we learn more about how they were created exactly, or if they even go into it. But always one but born as two, that makes it a little more tricky, I feel like.
I could see it being, even if they're not a dyad, it could be an attempt to create one. I could see that happen. I think Palpatine in one of the Secrets of the Sith reference books talks about how people have tried to do that before, basically force a dyad to happen. Also, he knows what dyads are and is like a power not seen for a generation or something, or maybe he says generations. So someone somewhere, a Sith, knew what a dyad was. So maybe Darth Teeth or whoever encounters a dyad here in Mae and Osha.
Yeah, that's interesting, because we talked about on the live stream maybe that Mother Anastasia created them so that she could be more powerful compared to the Jedi, or compared to whoever it was that ran them out of the last town that they were at. Like,
right.
Maybe she created them for the specific purpose of their power as a dyad.
Yeah, just to bring more power into the Coven and be like, hey, if we can create a dyad, then we'll be unstoppable, unkillable. I think that's probably a misinterpretation of what a dyad is, but they might not know.
It's hard to say right now because, we see Mother Anastasia in the show, in this episode, and she seems really sweet and caring and nurturing, but she's a leader of a coven of witches, and she has to project power and strength. So there might be a side of her that we haven't really seen yet.
Well, she is worried that her coven will go extinct, and she wants Mae and Osha to lead it upon her death. I think that's what the Ascension said. So she is probably afraid that the coven will eventually be killed off. So she is potentially seeking more power. It's coming from a good place of like, I want to protect my people, but that can lead to darkness. But yeah, I think it's just right now we have to wait and see. This is another mystery brought up of like, these children were created mysteriously and mystically, but we don't know the full truth. It could be a half truth we're seeing already. Like, we just got to wait and see what it actually turns out to be. Fred Rossi wants to know, will the lineage of the Sith be rewritten in the Acolyte? And I think this has to be more about Legends than anything canon, because the Sith lineage in canon is pretty bare bones. It goes Darth Bane and his apprentice, and then a bunch of question marks, and then Plagueis, and finally Palpatine. So we don't know a bunch about the Sith in canon. So basically, are we going to get to a point where Darth Tenebris is written out of the story? I don't necessarily think so. I think that the fact that this story is set 100 years before the Phantom Menace, to me, that's enough time to be in the Sith that came before Plagueis and Tenebris. Doesn't necessarily have to be, but I think that they probably purposefully put it there so that nothing would have to be changed.
It's hard to say because there could be a lot more gaps than we know about already. Like even in Legends, there could be gaps of Sith that were a thing and just weren't written about.
I mean, even in Legends, we don't know a bunch of the Sith at that point. There are a couple here or there, I think, between Bane. I mean, we have Bane, Xana, and then I want to say there's like 2 other named ones, and one of them like almost gave away the existence of the Sith to the Jedi.
Oh.
So, I mean, like, I'd have to look up that one's name, or if he even got a name. But, like, I don't know, maybe they could take that and put it into the Acolyte.
Yeah.
And be like, ooh, the Jedi almost found out.
I kind of get the feeling that the Sith that we are going to see in the Acolyte, maybe they're not going to be these huge, big name Sith.
Right.
Maybe they weren't going to be written about in history. So I think there's room to insert a lot of new potential Sith characters in canon history.
Yeah. I think that there's plenty of room for these to be brand new Sith that could be the masters of Darth Tenebris and then Plagueis, or maybe they won't be. I just think it's going to be, hey, we learned about 2 new Sith here. But if they do rewrite Tenebris, if they use his name but he's not a Bith, or if they say like, hey, this is Darth whoever, I'll pull a George Lucas, it's Darth Icky, and he is the master of Darth Plagueis. Like, I don't know, I'm not going to be that bothered about it.
If they do bring in Darth Tenebris, I do think they should make him something other than a Bith, because if y'all thought the Grand Inquisitor looked goofy in Obi-Wan, I feel like a Bith Sith running around might not translate too well on camera.
I think there's potential for them to pull it off and make a Bith Sith look menacing and, I don't know, scarred up or something. But I also think there's a chance that people who have no idea who Tenebris is, which would be most people watching The Acolyte, they would just be like, is that the Cantina band?
Yeah.
Guy? Like, I think that would raise more eyebrows than like a bunch of people being like, oh, wow, cool.
Yeah.
But that's why I think that they're probably going to stay away from that. Like, I think they're going to leave the door open for Tenebris to exist. Plagueis is a must, because he's been named. He has been confirmed as Sidious's master. But I still think he's down the line. Michael Fry asks if the Acolyte will spoil anything from the High Republic books or comics.
Ooh. No, I don't think so. I think they're going to steer clear of that, because really it's just Vernestra is like our main connecting factor between this show and the books, and I think they're gonna leave it there.
I think so as well. I'd love, a little call out to the Nile or the Dringir or something, but for the most part, I think this is a story that's set 100 years after the books. The writers, like Cavan Scott has said, like, this is not the end of the books or anything. It's just another story that happens to take place during this era. So there is the Vernestra link, and I do wonder, we could make some guesses maybe. The way that she's acting now on the show is not how I expected her to be. So maybe we know a bit more of her arc. I can kind of see why she would turn that way. Yeah,
I guess, the fact that she doesn't die in the books or comics, I guess that's spoiled for
yeah,
us.
I guess a little bit.
But yay.
Yeah. So yeah, there have been minor spoilers here or there. Maybe there will be little things that we can glean from it, but I guess I was expecting the books and comics to all end with like, yeah, and now the Jedi have forever been changed by the Nile and that conflict, and we're going to kind of start to see the High Republic ending. Mm-hmm. And that is what we're seeing in the Acolyte, I think, is the Jedi becoming more institutionalized. We're getting to that tail end of the High Republic era to the fall of the Jedi era.
It's interesting because this show was really marketed and like people talked about it as this High Republic live action show, which I think was a mistake. Because it technically, yes, it's High Republic, but it's, like you said, it's like the tail end of it. You might as well say it's prequel era. You know, it's
right.
They're kind of the same, but really this is meant to bookend what we were seeing in the prequels. And so I feel like it got attached to the story of the books and comics a little too much by telling everyone it was a High Republic show.
I do think some book and comic fans thought that it would be more entangled with it, and that's why there were questions for a while of like, is this going to be how the books and comics end? Like, is it going to lead into the Acolyte? And people had to keep saying like, no. Mm-hmm. The books and comics are separate. But you know, I'm glad that they did it because I like seeing the gold robes, and I do think it's good to show the Jedi looking different, acting a little bit different than they did in the prequels, although you can absolutely see how it's a midpoint. I like that. I can't remember who pointed it out. It might have been Alden Diaz, but someone pointed out that the Jedi logo is kind of halfway in between the High Republic logo and the Jedi logo of the prequel era. Yeah. And I'm like, that's a really nice touch.
Like it's kind of constantly morphing. Mm-hmm. Yeah, that is cool. I don't know that Leslie Headland meant specifically for this show to be a High Republic show, but I know she wanted to make a show about the Sith or people close to the Sith. So in order to do that, she kind of had to go back, right?
Yeah, I mean, I think she knew where she wanted it to be on the timeline, and then they were like, oh, well, that is technically in the High Republic era. Mm-hmm. And I think then she was probably like, oh, cool, like, I'm happy to take from the books and that aesthetic and wrap it into my stuff.
And it worked out great for everybody because the outfits are better, the lightsabers are going to be cooler,
more colors,
more colorful. We get a whip. Vectors are cool. We might get another new lightsaber.
I do hope we get to see more vectors. Like, we just saw one off in the distance. I'm like, come on. Get me up close and personal.
Those are real small, though. Like, how many people does the vector hold?
1 or 2.
So it would have to be like a one.
It's just like a
POV.
starfighter, yeah. Today's video is brought to you by Raycons, who just launched their upgraded model of the best-selling everyday earbuds. The latest version comes with active ergonomic design, multi-point connectivity that lets you pair with 2 devices at once, and active noise cancellation. Just 10 minutes of charging gives you 90 minutes of battery life, and a full charge lasts for 32 hours. They're comfortable and able to fit a wider range of ear sizes, and they're weatherproof and sweat-resistant, which is great because I tested mine out during a workout. They're great for active exercise or an easy walk with the dog. The multi-point connectivity is awesome if you want to share songs with someone else or listen to 2 separate sources on your own. If you've been curious about Raycons, there's no better time than the present, and Raycon offers a 30-day happiness guarantee. Go to buyraycon.com/explain today to get 15% off your Raycon order plus free shipping. That's right, you'll get 15% off and free shipping at buyraycon.com/explained. buyraycon.com/explained. Patron Jake asks, what's with the beam of light cutting through the moons on Brendok?
Oh, did you pick this one because of what I showed you earlier?
Yes. I told you I was going to. Oh, okay. I was like, oh, someone asked about that. And this is all going to be credited to at The Gaze Electric on Twitter because they pointed out some similarities between that line going between the moons and some shots from the trailer. So we are going to be speculating a bit from the trailer, but here we go. Like,
Here we go. Here it is.
If you don't want to see that, you can skip on the timeline to the next question.
So it looks like maybe it's some sort of field of debris or asteroid field that is on the y-axis of that moon or planet. Because, yeah, it did kind of look just like fog or some kind of like cosmic star,
just like a weird light coming
star field or light. But when you compare it to that shot in the trailer of the ship going through some kind of field of debris, you're like, oh, that could be the same thing.
Yeah. It looks like maybe there's, I don't want to call them rings, but like there are a bunch of little rocks in between those moons.
Yeah.
So that might be where a chase from the trailer takes place, which would probably mean that everyone's going back to Brendok, which that makes sense. You know, like, let's end this where it all started.
Yeah.
I could see maybe we do a couple more episodes in the present day, then episode 6 or 7 could be another flashback to show us, okay, what really happened from the Jedi perspective or whatever. And then the final episode is like, everyone's back on Brendok. We're gonna resolve this where it all fell apart.
I love that. I do hope that shot is in the present day. I couldn't tell what the ship looked like. I thought it looked like the same ship that we saw in the flashback.
So yeah, it's the Jedi ship chasing Mae's ship that we've seen a couple times.
Oh, okay. So yeah, that would mean it was present day. Yeah, I guess.
So that's the chase that we have been shown, and it looks like Saul is piloting. That could be a trick of the editing, but someone is chasing someone in Mae's ship. Who knows? I don't
riveting stuff.
I know. Well, I don't want to just assume it's Mae, because who knows at this point.
That's true. That just really intrigued me because it was a connection that I hadn't even thought of or seen anyone else talk about. So I kind of hope that that's true.
It's funny, like, I've kind of been not going back and looking at the trailers or anything because I'm enjoying the mystery and the ride of it all. But then I saw that and I was like, ooh, that's interesting.
Yeah.
BJack570 wants us to get into some irresponsible speculation, and let's just go ahead and guess who in the main cast we think might be dead by the end of the season. So basically between, I'd say, Mae, Osha, Sol, Jeki, Yord, Kelnaka. I don't know if you'd count Kelnaka as part of the main cast yet, but...
Yeah. I hope neither Mae or Osha die in this.
I am going to guess that Mae, and as much as I don't want this to happen, I'm going to put Yord on the chopping block.
No.
I'm part of the Yord Horde. I don't
Star
want it
Wars
to happen,
official is sending out a bunch of Yord Horde swag to people. Do you think they would do that if he dies?
They released an entire Razor Crest playset right before they blew it up.
That's true.
I love Yord, part of the Yord Horde, but I fear for him. But also there's part of me, like, thematically, so I think that Sol is probably going to live. You know, my theory is he lives, but his reputation is torn asunder. And I think that Jeki surviving to experience the fallout of that makes sense, because she, like, hangs on his every word. It does make some sense for Yord to survive too, because he is so, like, the Jedi are great, we do everything perfectly, this is the right way. And so I do want to see him grappling with, like, oh god, maybe not.
Right.
So maybe I'll take that back. but I'm scared for him.
Kelnaka, we haven't even really seen much of Kelnaka, and I'm already scared for him.
Yeah, he's on the list, and Mae is, even though she is cheated, she got Andara and Torben, but I'm just like, I want to see some Wookiee Jedi action. We've seen some in the trailer that already looks great, but that's that's what I want from Kelnaka.
Well, in the flashback too, that he had like a cute moment with Osha, and I would love to see him. If we get more flashbacks, I'd love to see him interacting more with, like, Padawans or other Jedi. Yeah,
Agreed.
he was just kind of there.
That's again why I'm hoping that the next flashback is like really Jedi heavy.
Yeah.
Just because the first flashback left us really like, oh, the Jedi made a lot of mistakes. But maybe they're more reasonable than we know right now. David Gonzalez and Alonzo Matus both ask for more clarification on the term acolyte. Could Inquisitors be considered acolytes? Is acolyte a new term for dark Jedi?
I don't think it's a new term for dark Jedi. Maybe, like, instead of the word apprentice.
Yeah, I mean, I think that the way we said it last week is kind of like the assistant to the regional manager, where this is the acolyte is the apprentice to the apprentice, or like the potential Sith apprentice.
The side piece.
Right. Okay. Kind of like Asajj was, or Savage Opress. So no, like a dark Jedi, which is still not really a term I think is going to be used in the new canon, is just like a fallen Jedi, or it's kind of a catch-all for any dark side user. The Inquisitors also were not considered Sith. I mean, they're kind of just fallen Jedi dark side users, but Palpatine never really considered them to be up-and-comers as his next Sith apprentice. I think the Grand Inquisitor may have considered, he might have been like, I'm an acolyte.
Aww.
So maybe he had some delusions. Yeah. Oh, you little cutie.
Illusions of grandeur.
Yeah. I think that there's potential that the Inquisitors thought of themselves as potential acolytes, but for an acolyte to be an acolyte, I think they have to be wrapped up into Sith teachings.
It is interesting about the Inquisitors because, yeah, they kind of operate as a group. They're all kind of numbered, and they all answer to Vader or the Grand Inquisitor. So by all of that, I don't think any of them would be considered an acolyte, because an acolyte kind of works by themselves with one other person that they want to train with specifically. So it is funny to think about the Inquisitors, because they're always bickering and like fighting with each other for Vader's attention. It's funny to think about them being like, well, I'm Vader's acolyte, so
right. I could see that, and it is a little muddled because the Inquisitors were kind of set up in a Sith fashion, and at least in the way that like you're all given numbers and you're all kind of meant to compete with each other. If you kill each other, like, oh well. They're all scrambling for more power. They all want to become Grand Inquisitor, and the Grand Inquisitor probably wants to be Palpatine's apprentice, but I don't think Palpatine or Vader ever looked at them as if they like had what it takes.
Yeah, stringing them along. Classic side piece.
The Grand Inquisitor is like, Palpatine told me he's gonna leave Vader any day now. They're gonna get divorced.
Oh no. He goes to his book club and they're like, oh girl, honey.
Now the Inquisitor book club is something I really want to see.
What's he reading?
How to Lose Friends and Kill People. For our last questions, I wanted to cover some Star Wars Outlaws, because we did get some new gameplay that looked like a lot of fun. Wanted to touch on that a little bit because I've said before, open world games normally aren't my specific genre that I like to play, but Outlaws is looking pretty cool. And we were watching the gameplay and you kept asking questions that I was like, I don't know. But like in an excited way, you were like, you think we can go see the Lars homestead? And I was like, I hadn't thought of that.
Yeah.
Just, the idea of exploring. I think a lot of times in open world games, I'm like, I have no idea where I am or what to do. But, I'll have my bearings on Tatooine a little bit.
Should I go to the Canyon Dune turn? Should I go to the Junlin Wastes?
Yeah. I mean, and that's like part of the fun of the Zelda games is just saying, like, if I try this, what'll happen? Will this work? And then when something crazy does work, you're like, oh my God, I can't believe it. So yeah, if we went to the Canyon Dune turn and then Tusken Raiders started shooting at us, I'd be like, oh, this is neat.
Amazing.
Ah!
It's such a new concept for me because I've talked about it a lot, but I'm not a super big gamer. And I don't think I've ever really played an open world game. I understand the concept, but like when I play a video game, I'm always like, is there a tutorial or like a walkthrough that we can look at? And Alex is like, just just walk around and explore. And I'm like, no, I need instructions.
Yeah, and you're not even playing open world games.
Right.
You're just like a single player.
And so I'm going to try to adjust my headspace for this game and not just try to like go to the next story beat one after the other and just, yeah, explore the terrain, because a lot of people worked really hard to make this an open world game, and I want to like try to see as much of it as possible.
Yeah, I'll be interested to see how I play it the first time, because I kind of like want to do the story because we're a story-based channel, and then maybe after that we'll go back and like start a new game and then just play it really loosey-goosey and explore. It is funny that I'm always like, do we have to keep going back to Tatooine in Star Wars stories? But here I'm like, oh, I'm looking forward to exploring Tatooine.
Because, yeah, we can go to any part of Tatooine that we want.
And I'm surprised to see like multiple locations on each planet. It's not just like Mos Eisley on Tatooine. There were like 4 cities or hubs that you could go to.
Yeah.
Ooby Dooby Banooby asks which criminal syndicates we're most excited to work for in Outlaws.
Crimson Dawn.
Yeah, me too.
I think everybody has pretty much said that Crimson Dawn is like their top favorite that they're excited to work with, which I feel kind of bad for the other ones.
I do too. They have Kira, and like, if you've read the comics, they are kind of the people pulling the strings at that point.
Yeah.
So I would like to not be killed by them, please.
I saw someone tweet like, I hope there's an option to have Kira walk all over me or something like that. Like.
That's not what I thought you were going to say. The one syndicate that I think could sway me, and I'm starting to lose hope that they're in this game, is Black Sun. If Prince Shizor knocked on my door, I'd be like, okay, let's go. Haven't seen you in like 30 years, but I'm ready.
He's got such a cool design, and he would be a fun one for Legends fans to see pop up and something new. Yeah,
to have his big return be a video game feels appropriate.
Oh, yeah.
And yes, he would be around during this time. He is mentioned in the comics. So, like, it's possible that they're just holding back on Black Sun. Or maybe they're around, but they're just not one of the primary factions you can work for.
That would be a fun game mechanic, though, if you're working so hard to manipulate yourself into these different factions and align yourself with one or the other. And then there's like a surprise extra faction that comes into play and you're like, oh no.
That would be kind of funny if I was like Crimson Dawn all the way and then Prince Shizor's like, I'm here. And I'm like, oh no.
What have I done? Yeah, then you're going to be like, okay, well, I'll do another playthrough of the game and align myself with them.
Yeah.
This is smart.
Oh, yeah, I do think the alignment reputation system is cool because it's going to encourage you to be like, okay, I got even though I don't think they're going to have wildly different endings, I think the way that we get to the ending will be different.
Replayability will be a big factor in this game, hopefully.
Even though I might do Crimson Dawn first, I might go back and be like, let's see what this Ashiga clan is all about.
Yeah. I've said it before, but I'm very excited for Nyx. They already have a little plushie of him that they're doing for like some kind of giveaway or something, but everyone is very excited about Nyx, and just, he's so cute. He can distract.
I was very, Pippin, not as cute as you, don't worry. I was very relieved to hear that Nyx is blaster proof.
Oh, yeah.
I think that was a Kelly Knox interview for StarWars.com.
Yeah, thank you, Kelly, for asking the very important questions.
Long cat.
I do also really love that Kay has a Nyx tattoo on the inner part of her wrist, and another really cool tattoo. Like, they released this cool fan kit with all these images, and I was going through it, and I was like, man, great for cosplayers, but also great for someone like me who's too lazy to make a cosplay, but like, I want to see all the details.
Yeah, really love that they put that fan kit out, and mostly for cosplayers, but yeah, just to read through the details, really cool.
Yeah.
You got things to say, Pippin?
Oh, handsome boy.
Pippin, do you think they're a dyad? Pippin is the yin and yang cat.
Oh,
Perfectly balanced, black and white.
perfect little angel.
Sometimes he's adorable, sometimes he's violent. That's all the time we have for questions today. If you want to leave a question for next week's video, just put it in the comments below or sign up for Patreon to join our weekly Q&A discussion. If you haven't already, please like this video, subscribe to the channel.
Follow us on Twitter, Instagram, TikTok, Threads, and Blue Sky.
And as always, thanks for watching, and may the Force be with you.